Welcome, one and all, to the K.O.E. Nation Knife Reviews. Just like so many of you folks, I am on the never-ending journey to find that perfect blade. We're going to grade every blade on a 5-star scale as a tool, as a self-defense implement, and as a knife overall. Also, would we replace this knife if we lost it, and should you add it to your collection? Most important of all, without further ado, let's get to this knife review.
Hello again, I am Tony fucking G, coming to you all at the K.O.E. Nation with a knife versus head-to-head matchup. So today I'm going to be going head-to-head with my old everyday carry and the one that Phil gave me to use as an everyday carry. I've got my Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops, which is extremely worn down, versus the Kershaw. Now, as you can see, very similar knives in terms of shape and size. Like these could be long lost cousins. I'm saying, like, the length, the design, the shape, it's all practically identical. Like, there's not a lot of difference here in terms of aesthetics. Really not. Like, I don't know. You'd almost swear that these were cousins. Like, the big differences here, you could add a keychain holder to the Kershaw. This Smith & Wesson, not so much. The pocket clip on the Kershaw is probably a little better. I think that's going to be a lot tighter in my pocket. It probably has been. This is a little skinnier, and I don't think it's pretty tight too, but I think you get more gap there, and it's going to sit over top your inner pocket there a little better. Width of the handle, pretty much the same. The Smith & Wesson has a little bit in terms of length, but that's not going to be super important. The release valve on the Smith & Wesson is a little harder, a little more resistant to get your thumb on. The Kershaw does work a little nicer, honestly. But that could just be because it's newer. It's got less miles on it, believe it or not. Now, a little switch to flip the blade open is pretty much a wash. It looks like the Smith & Wesson's a little bit bigger, but I think the length overall, pretty much the same. Yeah. Now, let's look at the blade. Width, pretty much the same. I would say the tip, well, let's look at the back of the blade, actually. You can see the Kershaw is a little more rounded, straight, very straight to the point. This has got a bit of this has got a slant to it, which I kind of like aesthetically. The big difference here, I have had this Kershaw that Phil gave me for about 3 months, I would say. And you'll notice that's not by design. That is a massive chunk missing. I was using it the other day at work. I had it open. I was using it to scrape. I set it down apparently a little rough on a concrete slab, and that happened. Knocked a big chunk out of it. This Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops, I've had this for probably 3 years. One little missing chunk. I've used this to, stab, cut, shave. Like, I've used this as a screwdriver. I've used the ever-living hell out of this knife. And one little chunk missing. And that's it. I think overall, this blade, it's not nearly as sturdy compared to this Kershaw. I think this is a little thicker, maybe a little heavier duty, but durability-wise, I gotta give it to the Smith & Wesson. I can't believe that this thing holds up as well. This is heavier, I think, just by a smidge. So, this is kind of tough. It kind of depends on what you're using it for. So, in terms of a knife overall, I really like the rigid edges on this. This works a lot nicer for me. This blade is extremely dull. I'd say in terms of sharpness for the blades when they both came as is, the Kershaw maybe been a little bit sharper, but it's been so long, I can't really say for sure. So as a knife, I guess I could give it to the Kershaw, but I'm not. I'm going to give it to the Smith & Wesson here. Just because of the rigid edges. You're going to get one extra usage than you would here, because this is not a rigid edge, and I need that. In terms of a tool, again, for me, it comes down to the rigid edge. I need to cut a lot of tape at work, and this just does not hold up. I have to I really have to press in with the tip. And even then, it's not a clean cut. This, I can slice down to the rigid edge, and I can saw through that tape. So this works a little bit better. So already, that's two categories, Smith & Wesson. Is it going to be a wash as a self-defense tool? This is heavier, feels more durable. I could give it to the Kershaw. I think I might, just so it's not a complete blowout. But again, this looks a little nastier. And if you got to draw this quick, if this isn't something you use every day, and you don't wear these things out, I mean, I think I'm going to give it to the Kershaw, because I feel like this is always opened a little bit nicer than this one. Yeah, I'll give it to the Kershaw as a self-defense tool. Yeah. So, it is fairly close, but I'm pretty partial to this Smith & Wesson just because I've had it for so long. This is going to get the W here today. I still don't know that I would replace this once it's destroyed, because again, I kind of need more of a utility knife in my everyday work. But if I need to carry a blade such as this, I would probably opt for this one over the Kershaw. So that is my versus matchup. Just by enough, the Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops is your winner. I believe their price point's pretty similar anyway. So it really just comes down to, do you like black or gunmetal gray? And do you need a serrated edge? Because otherwise, they're pretty much the same knife. But I'm Tony G. Thanks for joining me here at the K.O.E Nation. Like, share, subscribe.